Hey everyone, come on in. Listen, I wanted to share with you really quick about I wrote something. I don't see it in there. Maybe give me one quick second here. I want to share. We're going to leave that alone. Oh, okay, there it is. Hey, come on in. Come on in. Let's talk. Let's share. How was your day? How's your Tuesday? How is your Tuesday? My Tuesday is a fabulous Tuesday. So today I have been, um, of course, errand day with my son. He was to go and get his driver's license on today, but that didn't go according to plan. So we are having to replan that, reschedule that. But tonight is his winter formal, so we are getting prepared for that, which is actually happening in a couple of hours. We're getting him all situated. We went shopping on the other night. He picked out his whole attire of what he was wanting to wear for tonight. And of course, y'all know like this quarter zip trend that is like everybody is on 10 all about. So that wasn't his original idea or plan or attire that he had in mind, but it ended up working out in his favor to where that quarter zip, sweater that he wanted, he was able to get that. Plus the whole look that he was kind of going for, it kind of, he did good. He did good. So I'm super duper excited about that. I didn't get to take a lot of pictures, but I did get a video of him stepping out in his, really nice, um, wardrobe. So I'm pretty excited about his whole, winter wonder dance, and that's going to be with the Austin Royals football team and cheer. Well, actually, the cheer squad is putting that on. So that is some of the things that we have going on this evening, and I have been planning, of course, ending this year strong and working on my calendar for 2026, making sure I'm going over, any last minute business details that I need to go over. In our WYIC inner circle, we have fabulous ladies inside of the WYIC inner circle. We are sharing, we are growing, we are being intentional about reclaiming our life of abundance and what that looks like individually and collectively, and how we could build stronger relationships, as a single mom, all the nine. We have 12 different themes that we go through every month. And so this month is our social life plan, end of the year connections, and auditing. You have to audit your relationships, right? Audit those people that are currently in your life and know where they belong, know where they fit, know where, they are will be able to serve in other, serve in other people's lives if they're no longer serving in your life, or being valuable in their life, and vice versa. Iron is supposed to sharpen iron. We're supposed to be able to strengthen one another and encourage and all of the things. So sometimes we can sharpen an iron if we feel like, okay, we've done all the sharpening we could do. Send them to someone else, point them in the right direction. Even been friends, sometimes your friendship just reach a cap. Sometimes it just reach a, this is as far as my friendship is able to, extend right now. And so there is nothing wrong with that. There is so absolutely nothing wrong with knowing who you are, knowing where you are, and how to navigate this space in a healthy way, in a graceful way, in a loving way, in a compassionate way, without causing any, collateral damages, that is, the other person have to be left picking up pieces of their life and trying to start back over again. We are supposed to bring healing and joy and hope and peace to other people's lives. And are we doing that? That's what our purpose, my purpose is anyway, is to make sure I'm adding value as much as possible. So this is how my day has been going, and I'm glad to be able to share that, with different people that I come across. So inside of the WYIC, WYIC inner circle, that is what's taking place. End of the year, auditing our, relationships and making sure they are in appropriate places in our life. I was telling one of my sons the other day that on my one of my phones, I have actually a calendar, and in this calendar, I have different times set for interacting with different, people in different groups, right? Because everybody doesn't deserve the same amount of attention. Okay, if your
That's an interesting
acquaintances,
sentiment.
your
Could you please clarify what you mean by
Google is talking to me. Uh, um, if you have acquaintances in your life, they don't deserve the same type of your attention as, your friends, those that are in your inner circle, those that have a certain seat at the table of your heart. You don't share your intimate, thoughts or personal thoughts or vulnerable thoughts or, those moments of real joy that you experience with just anybody. You say those, they're reserved for people that have walked the road with you, that have been in your life for some time. Y'all have established a rapport with one another. So ending the year strong for me is about understanding my connections and why people are in my life and how to place them appropriately, okay? And how to place myself appropriately in other people's lives, right? So that we can continue to add value. Sometimes people have to be demoted in your life, right? They may be have started off as, or work their way up to friends or best friends or whatever you have put them in a certain category, that you may have to demote them. Maybe there are things that other people are, kind of taking, prominence in your life and just rearranging and reorganizing and making sure that they are in this space and fitting like they need to. You can't have someone that is good with traveling, working on finances, or working as a, doing hair, and that's not their thing, so understanding the people in your life and where to put them, why they're there where they are, it's just really, really knowing those. This is something that I forever hang on to, and I'm strong on this, knowing those that labor among you. Okay, I am strong on knowing those that labor among you, knowing those that are within my vicinity, knowing those that I, have a strategic coffee connect with, those that I, share bread with, or, share some information that may be of, of great importance. Knowing those in my life that I am in communication with is very, very important. That is Bible. So you have to be wise. Everybody can't sit at the table in the same space and occupy the same type of, you know, what you have to offer. So, before we begin, I want you to know that everything I share today, everything I share in this moment, um, it comes from lived experiences, not theory. Along that journey, I created a few resources, including my book, which is my personal testimony filled with faith, filled with real struggle. Ooh, when I tell you real struggles, the struggles are real for anybody that is dealing with real struggle, from, relationships to managing finances to, understanding your identity, your place in this world, children, parenting, realizing yourself as a parent, dealing with, siblings, yourself, trying to figure out how you are in this, a part of the family, and all the things, the struggles, unemployment, what else, living in unexpected places, loss of income, loss of housing, loss of, transportation, going through a divorce, going through a bad breakup, whatever the struggle is, I'm telling you, I probably have experienced it. May not be on the scale in which you have experienced it, but I talk about these things, the real struggle, prayer and reflection, because you have to have a moment to reflect over life, over situations, over joys, over victories, making sense of everything. So they're available now if you choose to explore them later. I am going to drop the link in my chat so that you can go ahead and grab your copy today and start reclaiming your life of actually it's already pinned. It's already pinned. Okay, you can do two things. You can join us inside the WYIC inner circle, or you can also grab your copy of my testimony. I have that link available for you so you can start reclaiming your life, that understanding that you aren't alone, in other words. So they're available now if you choose to explore them later. No pressure at all. What's for you will find you. So for now, I simply invite you to be present and receive what you came for today while you are being a part of this particular life. And a lot of you are wanting that the title, the topic itself may have caught your attention of how to overcome, right? You may be wanting to know how to make it out. How do I make it out of this? Like, just give me the plan, give me the formula, give me the solution, give me the strategy, give me as they say, the 411. How do I make it out? And so I want to talk to you and share with you my testimony of how I made it out, and how you can as well. Okay, this is not anything that is far from you, and what you can't do is just realizing what you have available to you and where you are. So I received a message recently that stopped me in my tracks, and I won't say their name for privacy, but they said, "You're the only person I've seen successfully come out of the shelter and displacement system here in Austin, and that's what I need." So people are wanting to come out of their hardships. People are wanting to come out of financial, whatever the word that I'm looking for. Why did it slip my mind? Right? People are wanting to come out of debt. People are wanting to come out of horrible relationships. People are wanting to come out of whatever those hardships may be, even if it's something within themselves. But this particular person, they are wanting and they are needing to come out of the government system, right? And hardships, and being in this particular system here in Austin, and that's what she said that she's needing. And when I read that, something rose up in me, because what they said is bigger than me. It reminded me of why I wrote my book, why I wrote that book in the women's shelter here in Austin, Texas. When my children were going to school, and I'm in the middle of the floor trying to, put myself back together and figure out my life in this space. It reminded me why I show up the way I do, why I am, passionate about what I do and who I am and who God has called me to be in the marketplace and in the ministry, helping single moms find their space and lead from a place of purpose and faith in the marketplace and in ministry. I see so many single moms who are feeling or think that they can't serve in these areas because of a title or because of their current circumstances, right? I've been there, I've done that. I understand how single moms can be overlooked because of because of them having children, right? And in ministry, where, okay, you can't serve in the public eye because I don't, as if it's infectious, as if, okay, if a single mom served in a leadership position, you can catch the single mom, like as if it's something that is contagious. Okay. And so my story isn't just a testimony, it's instruction, it's a roadmap, okay? And so we're going to share it. We're going to talk about it. So when I went through the shelter system, so I've been in the shelter, for I went through my teens and I went through one, two, three shelters. Um, Two before we got to Texas, one while we were in Texas, and the one in Texas is where we stayed the longest, well over a year. And so, but in those places, I didn't feel strong. I didn't, and this is I had to figure out my strength again. I had to figure out my place in this world again. I had to figure out my purpose again and realign myself. The three things that God gave to me when I first moved to Texas, and this was in 2015, I moved to Texas. And so while I was lying in bed, I was praying. When I moved here, I was praying. And I'm like, okay, God, why am I here? What's going on? And three things that came to me was realign, reassign, and repurpose. Okay, realigning, reassigning, and repurposing you, realigning your vision, reassigning your purpose, and reassigning your vision, and repurposing who you are, and so I had to be in this space of allowing God to make me over, to create in me a clean heart, and renew that right spirit in me. So I didn't feel chosen. I didn't feel capable. I felt, Lord knows, I felt tired, embarrassed, frustrated, and sometimes hopeless. But the thing is, somebody told me, like, in spite of everything that you're going through, you don't look as if you are dealing with anything that you're dealing with, because you move with so much confidence. Whew. When I tell you that's only God, that was the glory of God. That was the goodness of God. That was the favor of God. That's the mercy of God. That was not anything, when I look back, not in my own strength and my own confidence, because a lot of times there was so many times, oh my sweet Jesus, oh, the tears that I cried, the prayers that I prayed, the frustrations that frustrated me, the not knowing, the feel like I'm banging my head up against the wall, and I can tell, like, my confidence in me, I felt like my confidence was slipping. It affected my gifts, my spiritual gifts. It affected my natural gifts, right? The things that God just equipped me with to, to glorify him, to add and equip other people, to edify and exhort and help other people reclaim their life and know that God is good. It affected me, and I could tell. But other people weren't able to tell. And I'm saying that's all God, the glory of God. But here's the truth. I say in my book, purpose doesn't wait for perfect conditions. And so how I made it out, because I chose, it had to be, you got to make a decision. God says that I set before you. You have to make a decision about your life. You have to make a choice about where you are and where you're wanting to be. And you have to decide and say, this is the plan that I'm going to follow. This is the plan that I am wanting to, make happen in my life. And you have to, and you just got to follow it. So you got to make a decision. You got to make a choice. And that is something that I do daily. That is something that I live by. So regardless of where I am and whatever circumstances that are before me, I make a choice. I make a decision. And I made a decision early on, before I was even becoming a single mom, going through the divorce, going through, running, from shelter to shelter, going through these things. When I felt that season coming up, I felt that season coming up on me. And I made a choice even before to say that I will not be a victim of this. That was my choice. Now, that was my decision. And so everywhere I went, regardless of if I had to go to the government, go to the welfare office, I talk about all of this in my book as well, and how I went into these places and I felt the stares. I heard the downward, or talking. You can hear, you can feel it, and it can cause you to be embarrassed. But the thing was, I knew this was only temporary. This is, woo, my God, today I made it up in my mind. I said, this is only a temporary place. This is not my story. So just because I'm here doesn't mean this is who I am. This is who I'm meant to be. And it does not negate who God has called me to be, my purpose, my ministry. Even though at that point in time, I did not know God was calling me into to single moms. I started, asking God about my purpose years back, and I'm like, God, who are you calling me to? What people and that you want me to reach? So moments come where your questions are being fulfilled, but in this place of how do I overcome this, how do I reclaim my life, you have to make a decision. I think I'm already teaching instead of just sharing my story. This is just a part of me. One of my gifts is teaching. So this is just who I am. So if you feel like, Christy, you're just supposed to be sharing your story, but you're teaching, but that's just me. We're going to teach. We're going to get you the help. That's just the gift that God has given me, and it just comes out. Your gift will make room for you. I want you to know that. Now, I understand that this is talking about when you're going before kings and people, you bring a gift that it will open doors. It will make room. But your spiritual gift, that's a whole nother topic for another day. That's more into the spiritual side of things, the ministry side of things. So I didn't come out because life suddenly got easy. I came out because little by little, I chose to fight for myself again. I chose to fight for my teens and to my children. They were younger then. I decided that they were going to know what a kingdom leading single mom was all about. They are going to live life more abundantly, regardless of where we are right now. And God has made that my declaration, my decrees, my words that I spoke. I'm telling you, my children does not. And I asked them the other day, do y'all ever feel like y'all were in poverty or anything like that? And my son was like, no, I never, felt that. I never, even living in women's shelter, they never felt as if they were in a less than place. And I thank God for that. That was the goodness, and we were always overwhelmed. When I tell you God overwhelmed us with everything that we need, vehicle, we didn't have to pay for, just transportation, even though we got things, happened to where I lost a vehicle and lost vehicles and evicted and all these things that did happen, but we never had to go back into a women's shelter after we came out. We never had to depend on, once I decided in 2020 that I said 2019, maybe 2020, that oh no, we cannot be on government system, because I understand. So dealing with child support and all the things, I'm sharing some of my story. Child support and how I'm talking like how I did this. I made a decision. So prayerfully making decisions, okay? And understanding, like, you got to have faith. You have to operate in faith. Some people think faith is, oh, you just talk about faith and God. Faith is, you got to have faith. You're going to have faith in something. So have faith. If you can't have faith in God, where my faith is, have faith in knowing that what you decide, it is going to happen. You have to speak it, you have to believe it, and you have to receive it. Okay? The word of God says faith comes by hearing. What are you telling yourself? What are you rehearsing to yourself? What are you saying about your situation? Are you speaking doubt? Are you speaking fear? Are you speaking, I'll never get out of this, I'm always in this, and I'm always that? Then that is going to be your perpetual state, always in this, because faith is coming by hearing. And what you're hearing is, I'm always going to be the victim. I'm always going to be in poverty. I'm always going to be, struggling for finances. I'm always going to be, this helpless state. So what you tell yourself matters. What you speak to yourself matters. So I chose to fight for myself again. I chose to believe that the place I was living in didn't define the future I was building. It did not define the future I was building. And so I believe that it was the confidence that people saw on me because I spoke that. Regardless, I would speak what I was seeing. I was working at a child care, center when I moved to Texas. After a while, I was a manager, then I was a child care. I was working in that area. And so I would speak my vision to people even there. They didn't even have to know me. But when I started seeing like, oh, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to have me a restaurant. This is before I even went to culinary school. And y'all, let me tell you a story about that. I did not even want to do anything, have anything to do with cooking. Not because I didn't like cooking. I enjoyed cooking. I wasn't real experienced in cooking. But I associated that with, I hate to say it, but it is racism. It was one step for me from slavery, and I ran away from that, right? But I still had that vision even before I moved to Texas on my vision board. I had that I was going to own a restaurant. I was going to own all these different type of, businesses and being able to help people, invest in all the things that God has allowed me to build now, right? And so I began to speak things that was not as though they were, and I got talked about. I got laughed at. I got said, girl, you ain't gonna be able to do that. That's too much. You need to stop thinking like that. You got too much, and I got those type of talks. I got those type of words spoken to me. But at the end of the day, you know what I told them? I looked them in the face and said, watch me. Watch me. Watch me. So I wrote my book in the women's shelter. I built my LLC in the women's shelter. I did my first conference, my first event, my first speaking event in the women's shelter. So all of this space where people say you won't be able to do, you can't. I did this in the toughest of places that some people feel like it's the toughest of places. Okay, so I decided to shift into practical. What can I do? And I'm going to let you know, like, people see the outcome, but they need to know the process. You may see the outcome. You may have seen me taking flights. You may have seen me do A, B, and C, and da, da, da. You're calling me and asking me different questions. Join the WYIC Inner Circle. Okay. The link is there for you. If you want to go behind the scenes and get more one-on-one, you can ask me questions and all the good things, right? So people see the outcome, but they need to know the process. You need to know the process. I didn't just get out. It was a process to this. First of all, it had to be a mindset. I had to change the way I saw myself and I saw where I was. So instead of you seeing the government as a oh, I'm going to use this as a crutch, or I hear a lot of talking. I hear so much. So I understand the language. I understand what's out there, what people are speaking. Listen, I'm not oblivious to anything. Okay, so I decided that I am going to use this since it is here for my use for this moment. Leverage. Have you ever heard that word leverage? Leverage. Come up. So as I began to leverage the government and all these different things that comes with government, I began to see myself coming out. So I didn't just get out. I strategized. I prayed. Come on. I prayed. I worked. I worked. There was a time before I moved to Texas, I was working 3 jobs at once. I would leave one job, go to another job, and then be home with my children just for a moment, and then go to another job. 3 jobs in one day. This is one day. I was working 3 jobs, and this was at a convenience store. So like a convenience store, truck stop or whatever, those type of stores. So I worked 3 jobs at one time. I obeyed the guidance God gave me as much as I understood in this time frame. What I felt like, okay, this is what I am feeling like I need to do, even if couldn't make sense of it all. If I felt like this didn't come to me, if I thought about it, then I need to do it. So I did that. I applied for everything I qualified for. So when it came to the YMCA, I opened my mouth. So, in other words, I advocated for myself. So everything that I could apply for, I did. CMAs, all the things, what is the other thing to get on voucher? You can get for housing and stuff like that. I did not get on that. I wasn't able to get on that. I applied for, when I got to Texas, there was this housing where you can get, people will build you a house and all the things. So I did all that. I was up for the approval of a house, and then they ran my records. And one thing that was on there that I wasn't able to um get over, or get approved for the house, was because I was going through a divorce. And so that caused me not to be able to. So there was so many setbacks I faced. There was so many, and that hurt my heart. That hurt my feelings, because they said, if he came, he can have, he'll be able to take the home and all the things. And so it was a lot, that I was hurt, because my children, I'm like, I'm getting out. I'm finding a way. I got a great paying job. I got a vehicle. Now we're working towards getting a home. So this was early on in me moving to Texas, being here. And I'm like, and when they said I couldn't get the house because I'm still not divorced yet, I was butthurt. I'm talking about, oh, my feelings, okay? And I'm like, God, it was so much. So when I'm telling you, I struggled through things, real struggles, real challenges, real heartaches, real tears, real, what on earth am I going to do next? How am I going to overcome this? So I applied for everything. I qualified. I advocated for myself, even when it was uncomfortable. When I'm telling you, going into welfare places and hearing and feeling the stares and the thoughts that people think towards you, is like judging you, sizing you up, and already counting you and disqualifying you for so many reasons. One, the color of my skin. All right, let's be real about that. That is still going on in this world. But thanks be unto God, I do not live by the system of this world. All right. So they can judge, they can say what they want. But I know a God who created, he says he holds the hearts of kings in his hand. So regardless of what person, just because the color of my skin try to disqualify me from something, all I have to do is call on Jesus, and he will come to my rescue, be my vengeance. So there was a lot that I wasn't able to do. They stare at you, they look at you, and they size you up, they judge you. But overcoming more than that, because those things will hold you back from getting out, because it would keep you in a place of stuck. It would keep you in a place of being a victim. It would keep you in a place of having an ugly attitude. It would keep you in a place of being bitter. It would keep you in a place of, man, I can't get no more money this. I can't get a job. I can't work these hours, because if I do, they're going to take away this. This is why in 2020, I decided to cut off all connections with the government. I said, I am done. I cut up, my whatever cards that you get. I don't even know, whatever. I stopped, because I refused to allow my happiness, my joy, what I can do, be dictated by somebody else, giving my power to someone else. The only person, the only entity that I want to have power, the only supremacy that I want to have power over my life, over yes and no, is God himself. And that's how I live my life. The just, I live it by faith. The just shall live by faith. And once I began to remove all of the distractions and all these things, I found myself coming out, because it starts with a mindset. Start with your mind. If you have a faulty way of thinking, you will not come out, because you will still find fault in different systems and things, and you have this ugly talk and all the things that will hurt you. It would be to your detriment. So once I understood my identity in Christ and who I was, I began to change my whole personality. I began to change my whole way of just living as a single mom through Christ Jesus, because I understood that I belong to God. That's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. But that's it. This is how I made it out, and how you can too. Okay, even when it was uncomfortable, I used the resources that were available instead of letting pride block my progress. I used those resources. Even I had to walk in. I walked in those places with my head held high. I walked in those places like I belonged in this community. I belonged here. I have rights. And I walked in these that I'm getting the help that I need, and not allowing, my circumstances to cause me to draw back and say, I don't want nobody talking about me. I don't want anybody seeing me going into these pantries, into this free bread shop and getting the bread, and I'm speaking that I'm going to be, a CEO. I'm going to be this, that, and other, and I'm going to travel the world. I'm going to speak on stage. All of these things that I've confessed with my mouth, but here I am going to the bread bank to get bread. Here I am going to a pantry to get food. Here I am, taking transportation, public transportation, because I had to, in a way that I felt like I was less than, because I didn't have my own transportation. So it was a different of a mindset than I have now, because when I take public transportation, it's because I want to. It's because I desire to just see and hear and know what's going on, and maybe God speak to me in a different way. It's just because I desire to be with other people, and just so it's a whole nother mindset. When I choose to do certain things now, taking the train, because I just choose to take the train. Why waste gas when I can have the train and it only costs $2.75 or $1? Make that make sense, okay? I followed up with caseworkers when I needed to follow up with caseworkers. I stayed on the phone trying to make sure, okay, is this, that is in order, so that my children and we could be successful, leveraging what we have, okay? I kept my paperwork organized. I still have my filing system all the way from 13 years ago. I got every record where I was denied certain things, certain access to help and safety and so forth. I have all of this paperwork, not because I'm hanging on to it so I can have a sorrow song. No, this is my marker. These are my reminders of how good and how great God is, how God is a very present help in the time of trouble. So therefore, I am able to go back through these papers, and I can see and I know, like, God, you are so faithful. I thank you for keeping me in perfect peace as I kept my mind stayed on you. I learned to show up early and speak clearly. I didn't wait for motivation. I motivated myself. Thankfully to Les Brown and other, Lisa Nichols, I didn't wait for them to motivate me. I motivated for myself. I operated on responsibility. I was exhausted, but I was determined. I remember being so exhausted that I was going down the wrong lane. I was so tired. I was going into head-on traffic, and God snatched my vehicle back to the right place. I was tired out of my mind. So today I want to give you a few things that help me and that can help anyone fighting to get out the shelter or displacement system. One, advocate for yourself. Caseworkers have 40 plus clients. All right, listen, don't wait. Follow up, call back, ask questions, show grace, because they're tired too. They have 40 plus clients. They're working with a lot. You're not the only one. Okay? Organize your paperwork, housing applications, income statements, referral letters, IDs. Keep it all together. It speeds up everything. Show up early and prepared. It builds credibility and pushes your name to the front of the line. Apply for all the resources, not just housing, childcare, job placement, food assistance, transportation support. These build stability while you transition. Ask for help without shame. Ask. Needing help doesn't make you weak, it makes you wise. Do the spiritual work and the practical work. Faith without movement keeps you stuck. Movement without faith burns you out. I needed both. Take one step a day. even if it's small, even if it's one step a day. Consistency pushes you forward faster than intensity. So in my book, I talk about moments like these, not from a stage, but from the floor of my life. Moments of crying, praying, and trying again. If my journey resonates with yours, my book is just the longer, deeper version of this conversation. It's my real story, faith, setbacks, scripture, reflection, and how I discovered my I can in some of the hardest seasons. And if you're watching this because you're in that place now, I want you to know you're not behind, you're not forgotten, you're not stuck, you are becoming. So I came out not because um not because I came out not because let me it wasn't because that I was some sort of I want to make I don't want to use the word lucky. It wasn't because I was just this. It wasn't because of any of those things, but because I was willing to fight for it. I was willing to fight forward, forward. And I came out. And if I can make it out, you can too. Your environment is not your identity. Your chapter is not your conclusion. And your current situation is not your forever. Okay. Your current situation is not your forever. You have an I can inside of you. I want you to hear me closely and hear me well. You have an I can inside of you, inside you, stronger. Philippians 4 and 13, stronger than the shame, louder than the fear, and greater than the barriers. You're not alone and you're not done. You are rising. I wanted to stop by and tell you that if I can come out, so can you. I love you all. Have a blessed and glorious Tuesday. I gotta go. I gotta get my son to this formal. Okay, he's ready. He's been walking back and forth here. If you saw him getting himself together, so now it's time for me to leave so I can get him to this winter formal. All right. I love you. Have a blessed one.